Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis wants to go to trial on March 4th of next year in her wide-ranging case accusing former President Trump and 18 co-defendants of scheming to overturn the 2020 election. The date, March 4th, falls 8 days before Georgia's presidential primaries, and questions are now mounting over how the next presidential election will play out there if Trump is the Republican nominee. Georgia is a key battleground state, or at least it was in 2020. President Biden narrowly won it by just under 12,000 votes, the first Democrat to win the state since 1992. The small difference was the subject of that phone call from Trump to Georgia's Secretary of State back in 2021 that led in part to his fourth indictment. The criminal case has divided Georgia's Republican leaders, with even the governor there rebuking the former president. So, could Trump's legal problems turn off the state's GOP base and keep Georgia in play for the Democrats? NewsNation's Robert Sherman is live for us in Atlanta tonight to help answer the question. Robert, how's it all playing out?
Well, Elizabeth, few states better illustrate the two sides of the Republican Party better than Georgia. Here, you either back the former president or you're with Georgia's state leadership.
9:36 Eastern, and Decision Desk HQ now projecting Georgia Governor Brian Kemp wins re-election in his rematch.
On election night 2022, Georgia was looking red as a slate of Republicans headlined by Governor Brian Kemp cleaned house in the Peach State. But less than 1 month later,
Senator Raphael Warnock will win re-election in the state of Georgia.
NewsNation and Decision Desk HQ called it first. Republican challenger Herschel Walker would come up short in the Senate race, the candidate backed by former President Donald Trump.
A Democrat running against Trump or someone who is very closely identified in the public mind with Trump, that Democrat can win. But if a Democrat is running against a Republican who is not seen as being a Trump candidate, then the Republicans win.
Charles Bullock with the University of Georgia says there's two sides to the Republican electorate here. On the one hand, there's those loyal to their elected leaders, like Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and Governor Kemp.
Brian Kemp is such a great, true conservative.
On the other hand, there's those who back the former president, who stands by his claims there were issues in the 2020 election and put Georgia's leadership in his crosshairs.
Brian Kemp is a turncoat, he's a coward, and he's a complete and total disaster.
In the wake of the former president's indictment this week in Fulton County, the governor put out a statement reading, quote, "The 2020 election in Georgia was not stolen. For nearly 3 years now, anyone with evidence of fraud has failed to come forward under oath and prove anything in a court of law." Going on to say the future of our country is at stake in 2024, and that must be our focus. Nationwide polls show Mr. Trump is the runaway favorite to win the GOP nomination. But in 2020, the former president was the first Republican to not take home Georgia's electoral votes since George H.W. Bush in 1992. According to a June survey from Public Opinion Strategies, the former president would have a tough battle with President Biden here. But another Republican, like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, would perform more favorably. Bullock says the key to victory here is bridging both sides of the GOP.
Yes, they like Donald Trump. Yes, they like what he stands for, but they aren't going to follow him blindly.
We've seen other candidates, such as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, even campaigning on this, claiming that he has a better chance of carrying the states of Georgia and even the state of Arizona in the general election. But as things stand right now, former President Donald Trump very much so in control of the GOP race.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.